This conference will now be recorded.
And now, Pledge of Allegiance. You all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, and welcome to the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. And before we start, we want to thank our sponsors, CBTX and Axley Roadie, for sponsoring this event. And we also would like to recognize the elected officials in the room. NISD Board Chair Pam Fitch, if you'd wave, please. Thank you. SFA President Dr. Scott Gordon. NISD Superintendent Dr. Dave Trujillo. And City Manager Mario Canizares. And we also have some presenting sponsors, Atheon Energy. Gold sponsor is XLER. And now to our speaker of the day, John Hendricks, will be moderating the session. John currently serves as professor and chair of mass communications at SFA. He has held the position as academic chair for 17 years, and he has been at comprehensive universities in Texas and Oklahoma. He is a professor for 24 years. He's the author of 13 books and numerously scholar articles in subjects of media and politics, social media, and the broadcasting industry. Through his agenda, he has collaborated with more than 260 scholars in 25 nations around the world. He holds a PhD in advertising from the University of Mississippi. So without further ado, let him take it away, John Hendricks.
Thank you, Todd. Good morning, everyone. It's exciting to see so many people here. There's about 50 here, and that means that we have an engaged community, and that's good. And so we thank you for being here as well. I'm going to go ahead and take my seat and join the candidates this morning. But before I begin, I'd like to say that these forums that the Nacogdoches Chamber of Commerce sponsor are extremely important to our community because they inform the electorate. And an informed electorate makes good decisions, and good decisions make a great community. So please join me in thanking the sponsors and the Nacogdoches Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring these candidate forums. Also, it is not easy to put yourself up here out front and give of yourself and your time and your resources, but these individuals do it because they love their community. So please also join me in welcoming them and thanking them for being a part of this forum this morning. The way that we have done this in years past, if you have not attended, is this is more or less a conversation that we'll have this morning. So it will be very informal. If you cannot hear me, say, John, I can't hear you, speak up. And if you cannot hear the candidates, let them know as well. We want you to hear what their stances are on positions. So before we get started, I want to give every candidate an opportunity to introduce herself or himself. They will have 1 minute to do so, and then I'll explain the rules after that. So in deference to the mayoral position, I'd like to start with Jimmy.
Okay. No. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm, excuse me, I'm Jimmy Mize. I've lived in Nacogdoches for 50 years. That's kind of hard to say. I'm amazed when I kind of do that math. I love this town and I enjoy serving. I was taught by Judy McDonald that when you join an organization, you won't be effective unless you aspire to lead. Through these experiences, I've had opportunities to work with and form close relationships with current and former mayors, city managers, department heads, county officials, and our state representatives. I've seen what they've done. I wanted a role, and they've mentored and encouraged me to pursue my dream. My mission as mayor will be to improve the quality of life for everyone in the community. This includes 3 areas. Essential city services, of course. This is the city's responsibility. Police, fire, water, work on water, sewer, streets, downtown revitalization. This is something that the city does in partnership with developers and others, restaurants, entertainment, festivals, and tourism. And thirdly, economic development. It's so important, but it takes a collaboration. It takes SFA, it takes NISD, it takes others in the community to do that. But we do that with job training, the growth of SFA, and industry attraction. I'm excited about this opportunity, and I feel that I'm uniquely qualified.
Thank you. Just for clarification, I just want these to be just very brief introductions. These are not your introductory remarks. Okay? So just tell who you are, where you're from.
Okay, I can do that. I'm Kathleen Belanger, and my husband and I moved here to Nacogdoches 45 years ago. We did something a little different. We decided we wanted to choose where we wanted to live before we ever looked for jobs. And we chose Nacogdoches because of SFA, wonderful SFA, which keeps growing now. It's exciting. Because of the beautiful parks and the lakes, rivers around here, because of the history, and most importantly, because of the people in Nacogdoches. And I love the people. I continue to love people, and I have met now more than 150 people just during this campaign, and listened to somewhere between 10 and 15 businesses, their concerns, and it's been a joy. I could tell you more about my experience and background, but that's not this end, right, John? We'll do that later.
In your opening statement.
Okay, thank you.
Amelia.
No introductory. My name is Amelia Fischer. Good morning. I am the incumbent city council member for the Northwest Board. I'm very happy to be here.
Hello, my name is Garth. I am the Northeast Ward City Council member. I've been here not for 50 years, but for 34. And my parents moved me here when I was 5. They didn't really care what I had to say about the matter, but I graduated from Nacogdoches High School, graduated from Texas A&M, worked in Houston for 4 years while my wife was in pharmacy school, and moved to Austin, where I went to Texas University, and graduated with my MBA. And in that process, we decided we wanted to start our family or grow our family, and we started looking around either Georgetown or Nacogdoches, really long to get back to Nacogdoches, but there were no jobs. And so we decided to make it happen anyway. So we were gracious enough, my in-laws were gracious enough to let us live in the attic for a better part of a year while we bought our first pharmacy, and have bought 8 more since then. And so we were grateful to be here, but one of the big issues that I see that I really want to work on and have been working on for 4 years is job creation. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So, so that you know, I surprised the candidates. I had their bios, and they thought I was going to read their bios. But I think that they can tell you who they are better than I can tell you who they are. So that caught them off guard. That can tell you whether they're a good politician or not, right? Okay, so here are the rules as set forth by the Chamber of Commerce. You will have a minute and a half for your opening statement. I have 7 questions that I will ask each of you this morning. You'll all have the same 7 questions. You'll have 1 minute to answer that question, and then you'll have 1 minute at the end for your closing statement. Depending on our time this morning, at my discretion, I may extend the closing time. The important thing to remember is Miss Barbara in the red blouse at the front with the paddle. So you will see that she has a yellow side that says 30 seconds. and a red sign that says stop. And Barbara says it is shaped like a paddle because she will use it on you. So Jimmy, don't make Barbara come up here, Jimmy. All right. Again, in deference to the mayor's office and the mayoral position, we will start with opening statements with Jimmy Mize.
Well, since I've already done that, I think I'll just go a little bit deeper into one of the things I'm telling you about. Again, city services is paramount. We know what water does as far as quality of life. The city is currently studying that. I've had an opportunity to meet with department heads and talk about how we might harden that system so that we're ready in the event we have another 0-degree week. Probably won't happen, but we'll definitely have a drought. So we're going to work on that. That plant is fairly antiquated, and so we're going to work to upgrade that and look at the cost. So anyway, then again, economic development is really big. I've worked on job training. Job training is huge. You know, we've got jobs in Nacogdoches for people that pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, but the people aren't trained, and we don't have a good way to train those. So again, this is done through collaboration. Gabe, they're building a brand new tech center at the high school that will train students for these jobs, and we need to work on a way to train adults for these jobs. So certainly, job creation is important, but also just job training so people can take advantage of the jobs that we do.
Kathleen.
Well, since you don't have my bio, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my qualifications. I have been, first of all, I have a background in community development. My master's was in community development in Austin, UT Austin, and actually helped with community planning, developing a community comprehensive plan. I have worked recently over the past 10 years consulting with states and tribes and jurisdictions, helping them all these governments to resolve their problems. And the way I do it is I bring people to the table and listen to them. And 9 times out of 10, they already have their solution. So I have also worked with the National Advisory Committee for Rural Health and Human Services, which advises the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I was chosen as one of 5 people in the country to help understand rural challenges. And I actually, in this recent President Trump's administration, I did that for 4 years. I actually have the time, energy, expertise, and most of all, I like people. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. And in fairness to the Chamber of Commerce, I do want to emphasize, I do have your bio, Kathleen's bio. I chose to ask the candidates to introduce themselves.
I wanted to thank you all again for being here and to the Chamber for putting on this forum and also for giving me the opportunity to put on a dress and heels. My husband just about passed out when he saw me this morning. I have the good fortune of having been born in Nacogdoches. I've lived here my whole life, except for the years that I was away for undergraduate and law school in Austin at the university. My husband, who's a professor at SFA, and I have 2 little children who keep us very worn out, but very, very happy. I love this community. I ran for city council 2 years ago because I think that Nacogdoches is a really wonderful place, but I knew that we could do better. I wanted to cultivate community engagement in local government. I wanted to strengthen the city's relationship with important local institutions like SFA and NISD. I wanted to help develop a vision and a strategic plan for the future of Nacogdoches, and I wanted to promote lasting economic growth, consistent with the character and with the charm of our city. I have now learned that those things do not happen overnight, but we have made significant strides in these last couple of years that I'm very proud of. In these last 2 years, I have served with these priorities in mind always, and I'm asking the citizens of the Northwest Ward to allow me the opportunity to continue that work. Thank you.
Thank you. So after getting established, we had a 6-year-old in 2016, and I found myself saying all the time to former college classmates and UT alum that I went to school back then. We catch up for alumni games, that kind of thing. Nacogdoches is fantastic. It's just almost impossible to get a job unless you're in healthcare or in academia. And in the fall of 2016, I found myself just kind of thinking on that. I almost felt like God rebuked me when I was praying today and said, well, then insert yourself and do something. And so I did. I ran for city council in 2017 and was elected and was really shocked at how it actually works. There's no anti-development within the actual city. That's perception. The city is busy keeping potholes filled, water running, all that stuff a couple weeks ago, and doing a great job of it. One thing that surprised me, though, is how reactive everything was. And there was not a lot of organization. We didn't have an org chart throughout the city. There was excellent organization within the different departments, but not citywide. There was no vision at all for the city. And that was shocking because at the time we had 80 or 90 employees and we had direction, we had organization. And to not have good data to make decisions on was also overwhelming because it's a $50 million business with 300 employees. So that was shocking. So that's one thing that we've been working on diligently for 4 years. And I can say now we have data, we are proactive, and we have vision. So thank you.
Keep that microphone.
Yes, sir.
This question is going to start with you. And this is where your answers are 1 minute to respond. What has motivated you, Garth, or inspired you to seek this office?
We've made a lot of progress in 4 years. One of the things that we've done in the last 2 years, 1 year, is bring my city manager. Jim Jeffers left big shoes to fill, and we spent 9 months looking. We had 3 different waves, taking 9 months to find the right city manager. And I'm incredibly proud. I'm glad to tell myself to him and say we were a part of the group that brought him in. That's been encouraging. There's been an awful lot that we've gotten done in those 7 or 8 months that he's been here, including a lot of the proactive vision casting and getting good data so we can make decisions based on data-driven decisions versus just reactive.
Thank you. Same question for you, Amelia. What has motivated or inspired you to seek the office again?
Really, originally, what motivated me was a deep desire to foster community participation, community trust in local government, and that is what continues to drive me today. As Garth mentioned, I think that our city is really on the cusp of a lot of great things. We've spent a couple of years building really a foundation for how we're going to move Nacogdoches forward. And that includes developing a vision for the future of our city. It includes figuring out what studies need to be done to how to turn this vision into strategic plans, into concrete action items. And to me, keeping the community engaged, informed, and active participant in how Nacogdoches moves forward is what we need to run again.
Thank you. Same question, Kathleen.
Well, I have to be honest. I am not a politician. I never wanted to run for office, but several people asked me when 37 people asked to have an item put on the agenda, and we asked our representative from the Northeast Ward to put that item on the agenda, and he declined to do it. So I was very surprised, and I thought, well, if the only way that we can have our voice heard is to run for office, and people have asked me to do it, then I will. And I have done the research that is required. I've talked to lots of people, more than 150 right now, and I think they need a voice at the table, particularly at the beginning of comprehensive planning, not at the end.
My turn. I would say that my interest came from my being blessed to serve on various committees around the county. Like Nacogdoches and its development, serving on the Parks Board was a tremendous experience, opportunity, working with the Rotary Club to build the facilities out there. Working with Stephen F. Austin on the Foundation Board and getting to see those endowments grow so we can offer scholarships and professorships and help build that university. Such an important part of our community. And then probably the biggest one is NEDCO. I've served on NEDCO from the time that Judy McDonald said I was going to serve until today. So, I mean, it's been probably close to 20 years. And just to see the issues that are out there, job training, I keep going back to that. That's so important. We worked on it for 10 years and felt we had it, and then it just kind of went away. But we'll do that. That's something that I'm determined to make happen.
Very good, thank you. All right, Jimmy, this question's for you, and we'll work our way back down. Nacogdoches is currently experiencing a challenging time with a lack of homes available in the $150,000 to $250,000 range. Would you be supportive of public policy initiatives that would make it easier to build new subdivisions?
Absolutely. I've been going to city council meetings, as I should have been here over the last few months. There was a report recently given to the council, and it dealt with using unused space within our community. We're about, from the report, it was revealed we're about 50% utilized on property within the city of Nacogdoches. So we've got to be creative. We've got to look at places where it's not. These properties are already zoned correctly, are already zoned, and they can be used under their existing use, and we can use this to provide additional housing, and hopefully these properties, since there are already streets and sewer and water to these places, they can be developed at a lower cost, and so we can hit that lower amount on the home price.
Well, I'm absolutely for having more single-family residences. We need that. Our businesses can't bring people in. SFA, I know, wants to bring in more people with all the expansion, and we do need single-family residences. I am not, however, for infilling residential areas with multifamily and apartments. I think we need to listen to residents of our community and decide where are the good places for this kind of development. I also understand that there are a lot of barriers to building these homes right now. Many businesses have talked about it's easier to do that in Lufkin than it is in Nacogdoches. So I think we really have to remove those barriers, the complicated procedures, time-consuming approval processes, and lack of transparency. And we need, again, to bring those voices to the table.
Thank you. Amelia, same question.
I would be supportive, of course, of addressing a housing gap. We are in the process right now of developing plans consistent with the vision that City Council has set forward, which is, of course, in concert with community needs. And one of the things that has been proposed by city staff is to conduct a couple of things, to conduct a housing gap study to figure out where are the gaps of single family and multifamily, and what do we need to do to fill those gaps, and whether the city has the resources to incentivize that type of growth. We're also updating a uniform development code so that we, across the board, will have uniformity in terms of land use, zoning ordinances, and things like that. So yes, I am supportive about that, but in a way that is consistent with the needs of Nacogdoches and the growth.
Thank you. I completely agree. I'm for policy that makes it easier for developers to come and do what is necessary to increase the housing in that gap. That's really difficult, especially right now when construction costs are incredibly high. Wood is more valuable than gold, it seems, and that makes it really difficult to build single-family homes. We did have the Virginity report that we came out with the first month of this year that really stressed the importance of using those strained city resources that we have. We don't have a lot to incentivize. We want to incentivize, but that's very difficult. And so it really pushed us and encouraged us to look at the numbers to determine what are we going to do about it. The way that we can make our bucks go further is to infill, to use those areas where we already have our infrastructure in place, the water, the sewer, the streets. And so, yes, I'm certainly not for pumping in apartment complexes into single family houses, but where there is light development, I think it's going to be important for us to really focus on that, and then to lower some of those barriers policy-wise.
Thank you. Garth, also for you, and again, we'll work our way back down the panel. If you are elected, what would be your top public policy priority?
It really hasn't changed in 4 years. Job creation. I still think it's an incredible place to live if you can find a living wage. And that still is very difficult. And I was naive, I think, 4 years ago, thinking I could change that in a couple of years and then hand the baton to somebody else. What I can say confidently is that we've laid a foundation for that. When we first came in, interacting with our EDC was hard because there were no magic bullets. There were no levers to pull. There's no resources to throw at businesses to bring them in like they have in most of the suburbs around Houston, Dallas, and Austin. That makes it really difficult to compete. What we do have are great stakeholders, great business owners that are willing to come together and meet with each other to provide solutions. And so that is still my goal and still my primary focus.
I agree with Garth about job creation. I think that Nacogdoches needs to focus on sustainable economic growth that provides good paying jobs for people because rising tide lifts all boats. And I think it's cyclical, right? When our economy is doing better, our schools do better, and our community does better, our quality of life does better. To me, my top priority since I ran 2 years ago and continues to be today, though, is fostering community engagement and bringing people to the table from all walks of life, from all voices. I think deserve a seat, and I think that our community is made better by that. So the lack of that, I think, the responsibility to address the lack of that falls on City Council, and I'm committed to fostering that and bringing voices into the conversation early on.
Kathleen?
Well, Amelia is singing my song. I love the idea of bringing voices to the table. I think one of the first priorities is going to have to be to straighten out our complicated procedures and our time-consuming approval processes and lack of transparency for already the people we have working here in Nacogdoches. So that would be one of my top priorities. Another would be to engage people specifically by having task forces. There are much smarter people than I am who need to be brought to the table and who know their own business better than I do. I also think we are crippled by not having adequate internet, and I appreciate the work that's already being done to have a good internet. And there are probably 1,000 other things that I'd like to see, but that's where I'd like to start.
We have got a wonderful city, and certainly got a wonderful new city manager. There is some work to do. You know, again, as I mentioned earlier, essential services. There's some things we have to look at. Our fire station, we've got I-69 coming through, and it's going to be right at the front door of our southernmost fire station. We're going to have to decide if the delays in response time that causes us to need to build a new station, or if there's ways to work around that. You know, certainly, also, as I mentioned, development, more development of the community. Downtown is ripe for development, and we need to take every advantage to make sure that these premier buildings, the Watermark building, and some of those others, they need tenants, they need restaurants, they need shops, they need that kind of thing. That brings tourism to our town. And then certainly, third, as I mentioned before, economic development. That's my passion. And again, job creation through growing our university, which happens with collaboration when we all work together and welcome those parents to town and make sure they feel comfortable and they bring those students and they feel confident in being here. And certainly job training, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. Jimmy, this question is for you, and then we'll work our way back down the panel. What, in your opinion, is the greatest challenge facing Nacogdoches in the next few years? What would you focus on as mayor?
Well, I mean, I've talked about, you know, some of those issues. Certainly, we've got some issues in essential services, and then certainly opportunities in further developing parts of our town. But I would say probably go back to economic development and job creation. Again, I think there's such a simple piece. I talk to people in industry. Susie Patterson, for example, I talked to her the other night. She's got 4 or 5 jobs that will pay $50,000 to $60,000 a year if she could find somebody that's trained in maintenance, electrical, and issues of that type. But instead, she has to reach out and hire contractors to come into our town to fill that deal. We've got to give people opportunity to get that training so that they can fill these jobs and we can raise our quality of life.
Could you repeat the question? I'm so engrossed in your answer.
Yes, ma'am, I'd be delighted to do so. What, in your opinion, is the greatest challenge facing Nacogdoches in the next few years?
Okay, I am all for economic development, and I love the idea of all the training. We do need that. But I think our challenge is, as we have economic development and as we look at how we want the city to grow, and even how we want the city to withstand some of the pressures that we're going to be having, we need to keep our historical treasures, and we need to keep a beautiful Nacogdoches, and we need to keep the voices of the people, and we need to fully support SFA. So we need to not squander our treasures while we're doing that. I also think it's a challenge that we think that urban people have better solutions than we do. Not for the new urbanism movement, which actually comes from New York City and from, I think it's now being adopted in Berkeley, California. I think we have to be very careful because these reports and consultants from the city may do us harm and cost money.
Yeah, we don't want New York City.
New York City's kind of fun.
It's a great city.
It is a great city. Okay, the greatest challenge facing Nacogdoches. So I think we have multiple, and they're not little challenges. We have aging infrastructure. We have neighborhoods that need to be revitalized. We have generational poverty that we need to address. There are housing gaps, these things that we've already discussed. All of these start to be addressed by what Jimmy said, by job creation and by sustainable economic growth that is right for Nacogdoches, by having employers in Nacogdoches that pay well. Nacogdoches doesn't have a treasure chest like Lufkin to bring employers, so we have to be more creative about how we are going to attract employers and nurturing employers that we do have in town to offer those jobs. And that also requires a technical job training center, whether that be partnering with NISD and SFA, like we've started to do on a lot of other initiatives, but it's something that's a major priority. Yes, Ms. Barton.
The greatest challenge, that's tricky. We've got a lot of really big challenges ahead of us. We've got a hospital that's been a mess. We've seen some progress there, which is really encouraging. We've got a lot of projects. We've got I-69 coming through, which can be fantastic. If we're prepared, if we're not prepared, it's going to be a mess. Look at all the little dots along I-45, I-35 that nothing happened because they weren't prepared. So we've got to be prepared for that. Look at our community stakeholders. We've got to get them together, NISD, SFA, city, county. The county's going to be a new jail pretty soon. There's all kinds of infrastructure at the city level that we've got to take care of. We're not in coordination and communication there. That's going to be a train wreck. So there's a lot of things going on, a lot of significant challenges. So that's why we need strong leadership, somebody that can see the big picture vision, not get lost in things.
Thank you. The pandemic has had a major impact on Nacogdoches and our state and our nation. What have we learned here in Nacogdoches from this experience, and what could we have done better? Start with Garth.
How to prepare for a pandemic. That's tricky. One thing that I learned, I'm for small government, but I will say we would not have made it without PPP loans. We've got 11 businesses, 7 of those are Nacogdoches. We've got over 100 employees. We would not have survived. So I'm incredibly grateful for the local response. Not that I need to shout out to CBTX, but that was incredible that they were able to help us with that. It was really humbling to have to ask for help. You'd think, being in healthcare, there's no problems with a pandemic. Surely you're going to do well. That's not the case. It pinched everything. We certainly weren't a hotel or something like that in the hospitality industry, but it was tough. Anything can happen. We've got to be nimble and ready to bring task forces, people that are capable of organizing and bringing vision to a situation pretty quickly. And I think we did a decent job there.
It's a really, really difficult question. I agree with Garth about the task forces, about the collaboration between local institutions in terms of what we could have done better. I don't think that anybody could have seen this coming. I was in the hospital having my baby when it just about when it hit, and so I think that we had started to make strides in those collaborative relationships with local institutions, and that helped. But I think that it really highlights the importance of that work that the city is committed to and working on. I think what we learned is resiliency. Nacogdoches city staff did a really tremendous job. We didn't raise taxes in a year where a lot of municipalities had to raise taxes. Our city staff was able to tighten the belt in a really astounding way and to continue to provide services. And I'm really proud of them and how they have gotten us through.
Kathleen, what did we learn? What can we do better?
Well, I totally agree with Amelia that our city staff, particularly the police, the first responders, SFA, our healthcare people, I've just been so impressed with how they have come together and supported everybody. I think we really need to rethink how we have communications in a disaster. I do not personally like relying on a private company, Facebook, to get communications that are so important to have during a pandemic. I also think that this may be a little strange to add here, but our neighborhoods need to be strengthened. The single family homes are very important to our neighborhoods, and it's our neighbors who have helped so much during the pandemic. We need to take a really good look at what's happening to our neighborhoods in the city and also not put them at risk.
I tell you what I see is collaboration. We have defeated this disease through collaboration, just like we can do other things. We talked about job training, but that's how we overcome these type issues. The banks working together, talking back and forth, studying and learning about PPP and how to deliver that to our businesses and our community. We're so blessed. Look around at how few businesses we lost because of the pandemic and the shutdown. We use common sense. Again, we got that money out to our people, and then certainly collaboration as we got the shots out. Chief Kiplinger and his team, the nursing students from SFA, the hospitals coming together, all of the healthcare workers around our community getting those shots out. We're light years ahead of where our neighbors all around us have been able to get the shot out. So collaboration is the key. I don't know the downside. Sorry, didn't answer that part.
Thank you. Jimmy, if elected after your term as mayor, what do you hope that you will have accomplished?
That I have worked to help through collaboration to establish a job training center. We've got to have it. NACO worked on this issue probably for the last 15 years. You'll remember the Coors plant, the Coors warehouse south of town. It was purchased by the county. There was DECOG funds that came out of Hurricane Ike, I believe it was, that went to work on that facility. And we were on the cusp of working a deal with a neighboring, with Ainsley College. And budget restraints, issues that they were having at the time just would not allow them to come to Nacogdoches and fill that facility. So ultimately that facility belongs to NISD, but now NISD has passed on and they are building a CTE campus, a CTE facility on their campus. And it will take care of part of our issue. It'll take care of training those high school students to be ready to take a job when they come out. We've still got to fill the piece of the adults. And NISD is willing to help, but there's probably a bigger thing that we need than that.
Kathleen, if elected as a member of the council, what do you hope that you have accomplished?
Well, I would hope that we will have established some procedures to bring our great, knowledgeable, talented, multi-talented people into the process of city government. I think they're left out right now, and because it's a difficult process, but it's definitely possible. By creating task forces, by having open meetings, by allowing people to put things on the agenda, even if they may be controversial. We need to listen to people out there. I also hope that we will have built on our strengths as we move forward and not squandered them on SFA, on our trees, our history, and particularly our people, our neighborhoods. And I hope we can establish being critical thinkers without being critical people.
I hope to have accomplished a strategic plan and concrete steps that address and put into action our long-range goals and visions that the City Council has started to set. I see a city in a couple of years that has been proactive in taking these concrete action steps along the way. I also see a city that's done this fully with community engagement, with trust building, with fostering participation. I see a city that has built an intentional systemic mechanism to involve community voices in the path forward for Nacogdoches.
Very similar. I see our cohesive vision being executed step by step. It takes milestones, it takes intentionality, and it takes sacrificing cost. Nothing good comes without a cost, and that cost has to be paid. We've just got to align the priorities and the timelines on those. So for me, 3 of those things that I'd love to see are the relevant job training programs being established. We've got to get that going. That's critical. We need simplified economic incentives that are enticing and open for businesses that let them know Nacogdoches is ready for business. We are a place you want to be and need to be. And then lastly, we need to make progress, in the housing crisis, that $150,000 to $250,000 range. That we're at kind of a tipping point there. We've got to make progress. So if we hit on those 3 things, I'll be pleased.
Thank you. All right, this is the last question for the candidate. Garth, I'm going to start with you. And this is where I begin to sound like a professor, because this is a sort of a multi-part question. There's currently legislation before the Texas legislature that would prohibit municipalities and government institutions from joining or supporting organizations that lobby on their behalf, such as cities and towns would be prohibited from joining chambers of commerce or other organizations to lobby. Stephen at Boston State University would be prohibited from retaining lobbyists to protect their issues. Independent school districts would be prohibited from involvement with chambers of commerce. Would you be supportive of this legislation?
You know, my perspective might be a little bit neutral. The reality is that's the game, and we need to play the game hard. So if it's allowed, and cities and other municipalities can play that game and have a lobby, we need to be doing it hard. We need to be playing that game really well. We need to be shrewd, and I don't mean stingy. What I mean is astute and able to capitalize on information that we have. We need to play the game really hard. So I don't have necessarily a strong opinion one way or another because I'm not going to impact it. But if it goes through, fantastic. And if it's no longer allowed by tax-paying organizations, great. But if it doesn't go through, then we need to be ready and willing.
For years, it seems that municipalities have been more and more limited as time goes on in their ability to govern at the local level. This includes things like annexation, for example, and this is another example. We are part of the Texas Municipal League. They are very helpful in connecting our town to the state legislature, to resources, to things that our community needs here at home. We also have, I know lobbyist is kind of a dirty word, but We have an organization and a lobbyist who goes to Austin and we have told them, look, these are our priorities for Nacogdoches. These are the things that we need. And this is the funding, these are the grants that we want you to look for. And it really is imperative to have a voice at the state legislature for Nacogdoches.
So I never asked to be a consultant or to be serve on an advisory committee for the Rural Health and Human Services. But I think I was asked to come there and do this so that people could see that rural issues are very different than urban issues. To me, this is legislation that is totally urban. And we can't have a voice at the table in urban America, in rural America, unless we actually have people to speak for us. So I definitely consider this a big city answer to some problem, and I don't want big cities to run us over.
One of our difficulties is that we're 4 hours away from Austin, our capital, and it's hard for us to take off from work, someone like me or someone like these council people who have other jobs, to go to Austin and tell our story. So we have in the past used lobbyists. Our lobbyist is Kelly Barnes. He is a great guy, great heart, and very honest and upstanding. I'm sure all of them aren't, and maybe that's where this legislation is coming from. But having people like that, who when we're in a bind, like our water plant is out of electricity, that we can call on, and he can tell us who to call with Encore, or he can connect us with Encore, who's an SFA grad, who's going to help us get our electricity back on. Those people are vital for us. I have spoken with Senator Nichols about this, and he has a very strong point as to why Senate Bill 10 should pass. So, I mean, there's middle ground. I'm like Garth. I mean, I'm kind of in between. I respect Senator Nichols, but at the same time, I think that at times we've got to have that voice in Austin, because we can't be there all the time.
Thank you. Okay, it's now time for final statements from each candidate. Because we are running out of time, we do need to stick to the 1 minute time that Barbara will help us enforce. And as I opened the candidates forum this morning by saying that we would give deference to the mayoral position, Jimmy will go last. So I would like to go now to Kathleen, we'll go down the dais, and then back to Jimmy as the candidate for the mayor's office. So this is your closing statement.
Okay, I'd like to look at people who have been successful on many successful businesses that we have here in Nacogdoches. And so I read more about Charles Bright, who I really admire. And he suggested that we build on our strengths. I've mentioned them many times: SFA, the beauty of our city, our history, and our people. I also suggest that we remove barriers to those wonderful businesses for them accomplishing their goals. I think we have to listen and watch. And if you listen and watch, you learn a lot. We need to treat everyone with respect. Again, that's Charles Bright. And we really don't want to waste a whole lot of money on consultants and reports, because we have a lot of answers right here. So I'm going to listen. I've been listening to 150 people, 10 to 15 businesses. You have the answers. Let's work together to get some of these issues resolved and to move forward, and to be early in this planning process. Bring our voices early.
In these last 2 years, alongside the rest of council and our dedicated and talented city manager and the rest of our city staff, I have had the honor of working to build a foundation for moving Nacogdoches forward in all of these ways that we've been discussing this morning. I am so happy and I'm so excited about the future of our city. I would like to continue that work, and I would love the opportunity to continue to be part of the team working to make Nacogdoches a better place to live, to work, and to raise a family for everybody. Thank you.
Look, when I was a kid, Dad used to always tell me, son, talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. In 10 years, since moving back here, we've started or bought 13 businesses, 7 of those are here in Nacogdoches. We have 100 employees with an average payroll and average income of $60,000 a month. And so I love the foundation that we have. I love where we're going. I think talk is nice, but it's time to take action. We've got a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire that we've got to be tending, a lot of things going on that are great for our community. We've got to press forward. It's time to move forward and to make Nacogdoches what it should be. And give me the opportunity, I'll participate in that for 2 more years.
We've got a wonderful city council. They work together, they talk with each other, they work as a unit to solve problems. We've got to keep that. I want to make sure that I can plug in and be a part of that council. That I don't want to come in and bring strife and argument and those kind of things. We can't have that. We've seen boards within our community that had those kind of issues and they're not successful. So I want to be part of that. We've got a wonderful new city manager, Canizares, and he's a great leader for us. And the staff at the city, I've had the opportunity to visit with department heads, and they think he's wonderful. We've got great things ahead of us. We've got some issues ahead of us. As I mentioned earlier, the essential city services. There's some things we're going to have to fund. We've got fire stations that are 70 years old. Three of the five, yeah, that's right, 70 years old. So I've gone in and talked with the firemen and seen where they stay. The conditions are not great. You probably wouldn't want to spend the night there. So anyway, we've got issues. We've got money. We've got bonds that are paying off in the next 2 years. So life is good. Thanks.
Thank you. Nacogdoches is a lucky and blessed community, as you can see this morning from the quality of the candidates that we have to choose from. So please join me in thanking them for participating this morning.
Glad you could join us.
Glad to be here, Jim. Good listening. Hey, let's give them another round of applause. Good job, guys. I'm Ted Smith from State Farm. I'm the chairman of the chamber. On behalf of the chamber, Dr. Hendricks, I'd like to thank you for your professionalism. Great job once again. Everyone joining online, thank you for visiting. Thank you for attending. And at this time, I just want to tell you one more thing. Oh, don't forget, May 1st, you can go out and vote, and early voting will begin April 19th. So get out, vote. Your vote does count. Really needs you. It's going to be a tight race for Jimmy, so he needs all the support. Heard Scott's running for mayor now, right? And also, guys, we got a couple of events coming up. If you haven't, the Blueberry Festival will be back. So, yeah. If y'all know 20,000 people being in town last year. So June 12th, save the date. And then on June 11th, sponsored by Tiffany Ford. And on June 11th, we'll have the Bluegrass Music Festival, sponsored by Hendricks. And also, if you haven't heard, since we have postponed our banquet last September, we will be having it this September. Right, Betty? There's our chairperson right there. So, I'll be coming. And more recent, just signed yesterday, there will be a Live After 5 next next April 22nd, Thursday, over right across the street at Ted Smith State Farm. So y'all come on over to the Crawfish Bowl. Shameless plug, right after the Thank you again for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. Y'all have a great day, and we're going to do money. Yeah. Let's see, who's going to win $50?
Do the $50, and we're going to have CBTX.
CBTX, come on up. Roll the name. This is sponsored by CBTX, and thank you, guys. Who gets a free lunch today? Let's find out.
Help with economic development. Who's our winner? Claire Roman. Claire.
Okay, Jennifer, go. This is the big drawing.
$250 has to be business name and the contact name have to be present.
Must be present to win.
Are you ready, Jim?
My wife's name is Ron. Yeah. Here we go. 250. Must be present to win.
And who's our winner? No.
Uh-oh.
She grabbed you. Right, Clem Russell.
Clem, are you here? All All right, Kathleen, you want that on 30? Thanks again, guys, for coming. Y'all have a great day. And we'll see you next time.